Amanda Gorman. The inauguration of President Joe Biden was filled with incredible history-making moments, not the least of which was the swearing in of Vice President Kamala Harris, America's first female, Black, and South Asian Vice President. But the moment that really set the country abuzz was the stunning 5.5-minute poem, The Hill We Climb, read aloud by its poet, 22-year-old Amanda Gorman. The Harvard graduate made history as the youngest ever poet to recite at a presidential inauguration. But she's been doing groundbreaking things her entire life. Before she became the youngest poet to deliver an inaugural address, she was named the first ever National Youth Poet Laureate in 2017. Before that, she was chosen as the Youth Poet Laureate of LA in 2014 at age 16-year-old. She was also the first to receive this honor. Here are some of the things you should know about Miss Gorman. Amanda was born in 1998 in the City of Angels, and she lives in an apartment in West LA now. As her poem mentions, she was raised by a single mother and English teacher named Joanne Wicks. In addition to her older brother Spencer, Gorman has a twin sister, Gabrielle. Gabrielle Gorman has also dedicated her life in making waves. She's a filmmaker and activist. Gorman is a stunning example of persevering in the face of challenge. After experiencing chronic ear infection as a baby, she developed an auditory processing disorder that caused a speech impediment. My speech impediment was dropping several letters that I could not say for several years, most specifically the R sound, she specified. I had to really work hard at it and practice to get to where I am today. Her poetic reading at the inauguration was especially meaningful because the president himself, Joe Biden, has also struggled with speech impediment. Amanda was diagnosed with APD and speech articulation disorder. APD, also known as Central Auditory Processing Disorder, isn't hearing loss or a learning disorder. It means your brain doesn't hear sounds in usual ways. It's a problem with understanding meanings. APD can affect the way a child speaks as well as their daily ability to read, write, and spell. They may drop the end of words or mix up similar sounds. People with auditory processing disorder or APD have a hard time hearing small sound differences in words. For example, if someone says, "Please raise your hand," the child hears, "Please haze your plan." Or maybe you say, "Look at the cows over there," and they hear, "Look at the clown on the chair." An individual with APD also may find it hard to follow conversations, know where a sound came from, listen to music, remember spoken instructions, particularly if they are multiple steps, and understand what people say, especially in a loud or in a more than one person talking environment. Speech articulation disorder. An articulation disorder affects how children make sounds. They may add, delete, or substitute sounds in certain ways. Run may turn into one, or banana may turn into nana. This is very normal with young children, just learning to speak. But once they hit a certain expected age, these issues should have resolved themselves. When they do not, this may be a cause for concern. There is not always an identifiable cause for articulation disorder in children. Sometimes children just do not learn how to pronounce sounds correctly or understand the rules of speech on their own. They require more support and instruction. They may also be physical factors that play a role, such as developmental disorder, hearing loss, neurological disorder, genetic symptoms, or illness. These issues can all affect a child's speech development and contribution to articulation disorder. Articulation disorder testing can help to determine the cause if one is identifiable and can provide more information on specific articulation issues. Even if the exact cause is unknown, treatment can still be beneficial. Gorman grew up with a speech impediment that makes R sounds challenging to say. In an interview with CBS this morning, Gorman opened up about the role poetry played in overcoming her speech impediment. She is a quintessential example of how people's passion for her art is more than enough to raise above a diagnosis, inspire others to be remembered. It also illustrates that where a deficit exists, there is always a way to compensate for it. Because these symptoms overlap with other disorders, APD cannot be diagnosed just from a checklist of symptoms. While a teacher, educational therapist, or speech-language pathologist can evaluate how a child is functioning in terms of language and listening tasks, the condition is only diagnosed by audiologists who use tests that measure specific auditory processing functions. Children can be weak in one or more of them. Because it overlaps with attention deficit disorder, language learning disorders, or learning disorders, not all experts see auditory processing problems as constituting a separate disorder. It's not included in diagnostics and statistical manual that psychiatrists and others use as a common basis for diagnosis. To evaluate a child's auditory processing, an audiologist will do a series of tests in a sound-treated room that require the child to listen to a variety of signals and respond to them in some ways. A child must be at least 7 or 8 to be mature enough to take this test. The correlation between ADHD and APD was proven in a study of 15 boys between the age of 6 to 10, and it was found that 12 out of those 15 boys actually had ADHD and was more prone to developing and CAPD. How can you and I help? Preferred seating. Arrange for the child to have a seating that is easy as possible for him or her to tune into what the teacher is saying. Using visual cues, encouraging the teacher or the educator to use visual instructions, and making sure that the child is looking at your direction when you are conveying a direction or a message. Emphasizing keywords. Teachers and parents can help the kids with auditory processing weakness by using intonations or slower speech to emphasize what is important. Maybe we can do one thing at a time, putting certain words with emphasis, like way, words that can very easily be heard in a wrong way. Giving the child a heads up of what's coming up. Helping with sequencing, using words that trigger or help a child to sequence events, using words like first, second, then last, help kids follow sequences and directions easily. Assistive Technology. For kids who need extra help following the teacher's voice in a noisy classroom, there is technology that can help. The student wears headphones that reduce background sound, and the teachers wear a microphone wirelessly connected to the headset. Because auditory instructions can be so difficult for children with APD or speech disorders, teaching through the visual and kinesthetic pathway is extremely important. This actually helps strengthen the weaker auditory pathway while still allowing learners to learn. When a child has auditory processing issues, wordy explanations can create unnecessary frustration for both of you. It is much more effective to demonstrate a reading or spelling concept with the letter tiles. Using letter tiles can make all the difference for a child struggling to understand a concept. Many children learn to say speech words over time, but some do not. You may not know why your child has problems speaking. Some children have speech problems because the brain has trouble sending messages to the speech muscles telling them how and when to move. This is called aprasia. Childhood aprasia of speech is not common but will cause speech problems. Some children have speech problems because the muscles needed to make speech sounds are weak. A child may have speech problems if he or she has a developmental disorder like autism, has genetic symptoms like Down syndrome, hearing loss from ear infection or other causes, or brain damage like cerebral palsy or head injury. Speech language pathologist or SLP can test a child's speech. The SLP will listen to a child to hear how he says sounds. The SLP also will look at how the child moves his lips, jaws, and tongue. The SLP may also test the child's language skills. Many children with speech sound disorders also have language disorders. For example, a child may have trouble following directions or telling stories. One effective method of improving articulation in a child is to model correct speech. Avoid correcting the child when he makes a mistake. Instead, repeat the words correctly. For example, if a child might say, "toy in my womb," you can say, "Yes, Jilly, your toy is in your room. You will please go to your room to get your toy so we can play." Avoid speaking too quickly, but use a natural rhythm. Also, maintaining a regular flow of conversation around the child helps him learn speech and language. For example, describing how you make a salad or putting on your child's shoe. It is also beneficial to set aside certain blocks of times to encourage vocalizations. For example, maybe after dinner, make it a habit of having each person discuss what they liked best and least about their day. The convenient thing about modeling correct speech as a speech therapy technique is that it requires no equipment. You can take it anywhere. So the next time your family is enjoying some fun vacation time, remember to incorporate speech therapy in your conversation. Amanda used her disability to her advantage. To put it short, spoken words became her own type of pathology. So once she arrived at the point in her life in high school where she said to herself, Writing my own poems on a page isn't enough for me. I have to give them breath, like I have to perform them as I am. That was the moment that she was able to grow past her speech impediment. Gorman, who had particular trouble with the letter R, also used music as therapy. Her favorite thing to practice was the song Aaron Burr Sir from Hamilton because it was jam-packed with R's. And she said if she can keep up with Leslie in this track, then she was on her way to be able to say this R. When she is on stage, she feels electric. She feels she can breathe fire, she says. She learned how to speak by writing poetry when she was younger. What she used to do is she would eliminate words that she couldn't say and try to find synonyms, but it got very difficult. If she couldn't say ours and she was talking about girls and the world and the earth, she could not say. And so instead of eliminating her voice, she decided to keep those words in the poem. She would perform her own poetry every single night. She used her disability to her advantage. She used that opportunity to practice that sound. She saw the letter R while reading the poem, and it would be like a red text in her head warning her to gear up. This is amazing. We all should learn from her perseverance and her ambition and what we all are capable of. I cannot stress enough of the saying, it needs a village and a strong support system and strong family to raise a child. So Amanda, coming from a very strong family and an incredible support system, her mother accompanied her creativity, encouraging her to take risks. Amanda says, I was showing my mom some of my work that I had been doing, where I had been painting and doing visual art over my poetry. And she was like, this is something. You should keep on this path. And I am very grateful that I have that kind of supportive mom. In addition to her upbringing, Gorman attended New Road School from K to 12, which companioned unorthodox thinking, encouraging students to go beyond basic regulations, based education practices, and focus on tangible steps that center around creating meaning and doing. Her finals culminated in critical thinking, focusing on topics that included ways to change the world. So as they say, we need to change our outlook. We need to be more inclusive. We need to think out of the box to help each and every child, each and every person that we come across.